gentlemen, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Team, and this is the award-winning Fan Show. Thank you all for tuning in and joining me on this lovely Thursday edition of the show. It is the last one of the Fan Show week. Those of you that really do like 3 days on and 4 days off, I am trying to coin the term Fan Show week. That way, when there's a movement for us to go from a 2-day weekend to a 3-day weekend, once we've had our fill of that and we're ready to grow up and be adults, we can move on to the 4-day weekend, 3-day work week, known as the Fan Show week. Now, of course, that could change, and that's why I'm giving myself that buffer, because once we decide to, act like it's 2018 and that 2 days off is simply not enough, and we can move on and we can grow up and be 3 days off, 4 days on. It's a nice even. You're still giving majority of the week to the work, but you've got that little extra now. You've got a day that you can dedicate just to chores and everything that you can't get done in a work day. And then on top of that, because I know that banks are going to want to try to participate in this as well, because they're like, well, everybody else is going to be 3 days off and 4 days on, then we should be. No, you shouldn't. In fact, you know what? Banks and everything else that go on the bank hours should technically be available well beyond the bank hours, because it's just unrealistic to have to adhere to their schedule. They're banks. Your money is in the bank. You have a right to your money. And I know that there's ATMs and, electronic payments and all that. But, if you need your bank hours should be, opposite of everything else. Graveyard shift. Hell yeah, I can get behind that. Anyway, enough of me on my soapbox. What I'm saying is that the Fan Show week is nice right now. I do enjoy it. I do have, doing the work 3 days and having the 4 days off to really take in everything that we're going to talk about those 3 days. So tomorrow, start of the Fan Show weekend, Friday, right? No better occasion. That would be my vote for, unless the NFL changes from Sunday to Saturday, which they won't. I think Friday can still be Friday. Monday would be that third day of the weekend. Sorry, Tuesday. It's got to fall on somebody, right? Then we'd all hate Tuesday as much as we hate Monday now. Probably not as much, but you get the gist of it. So, tomorrow night, BattleBots, all new episode, right side of the bracket. Very excited about that. In case you missed it, we had Mike Jeffries of Bombshell on last night. Great interview. Got to talk about the Last Chance Rumble. A lot of controversy. Should it have been Duck? Should it have been Bombshell? Him and Hal Rucker, they're still the best of friends, which is great. That's the important thing. Then we talked about the huge upset over Tombstone. There will be a new champion in 2018. I know, I need you to think about that. New champion. We're guaranteed someone new will hoist a giant nut. Now, Don Hudson is still in the mix, right? So he could add one to his collection, but there will not be repeat champion. There will not be back-to-back. And then they lost to Lockjaw, which is why I mentioned that. So we talked about all of that, his big announcement, his decision to step away from the battle box for the foreseeable future while he deals with his battle with Bell's palsy. That's no joke, man. I know people that have it. It's bad. It's like you're having a stroke, but without having the stroke. So it's not to be taken lightly, and I'm glad that he's doing what's best for him and his health. Team Chaos Core, they are still going to be around. He is handing the controls over to one of the other members. So we will still have the Chaos Cores. We will still have Bombshell competing, but Mike Jeffries, man, he'll be missed until he's back. I have a feeling he will be back. That's not insider information that I'm withholding. I just believe that the man is a competitor, and he's been one of the faces of BattleBots. There's been a few. Tombstone, Lockjaw, Bombshell. So I think he'll be back. I absolutely do. Bronco. So tomorrow night we have The Right Side, which we'll talk about during headlines. But last night's episode was great, so go. You can subscribe and download it and listen at your leisure, sooner rather than later, I'd say. Each episode has about a 48-hour window. The episode that we do today is more for the weekend. There is a Thursday night football game on tonight. First time it's on Fox. Moving over from the NFL Network to Fox. If there was one wish that I could have granted with the NFL that I felt was like a realistic wish, because let's be honest, they're not going to get rid of Thursday night football, and that would be like my number one wish. Get rid of Thursday night football! But it would be if we could have just one home base for all the football games. Because I don't get ESPN with my current subscription to Comcast, and that's irritating. And then Thursday night games, they're either on NBC or they're on NFL Network or CBS or now Fox, and it's insanity, okay? And then Sunday, it's either on CBS or Fox or NBC. One and done. That's all I want. And I know that those TV contracts are lucrative deals, but my God, like WWE, for all that they get wrong, they get this right. Like, it's all on USA, all right? Monday Night Raw, Tuesday Night SmackDown, Monday and Tuesday, done and done. Everything else, all the other content, the pay-per-views, the originals, the ride-alongs, all of that is on the NFL, or is on the NFL, the WWE Network. You pay $10.99 a month, and you get unlimited access to everything current, past, present, and future. And the fact that the NFL can't do this is mind-boggling, because it's so annoying. Because not only, okay, I can get both CBS and Fox, but I might not get to see the Niners because they're not the team that's being shown in the area. You have to have that DirecTV NFL Sunday ticket, which is brilliant but also BS, because you shouldn't have to have just one specific cable provider in order to have access to your team's frickin' game. And you can do the Reddit thing, you can find the live streams, but should you really have to resort to that? No. So if I could have just one wish, which a realistic one, and maybe it's more realistic that they put the kibosh on Thursday Night Football than it is to have all the games on just one channel. Maybe it's not possible to have them all on one channel because games happen at the same time. But there's got to be a way, all right? It's 2018. There's a way. So just I want all the games. I want to know what channel to turn to on either Thursday, Sunday, or Monday. That's it. I don't feel like it's asking too much. So, Thursday Night Football tonight, Minnesota Vikings, LA Rams. It's one of the first good matchups that we've had in a while. Last week was the Browns and the Jets, which turned out to be a good game. But you'd have to watch the game to know that it turned out to be a good game. Like, people weren't going to invest their time unless they were a Jets or a Browns fan or literally had nothing else to do on that kind of Thursday night game. So let's talk about a few things here. Let's get into the headlines. We'll go over some stuff, and we'll continue talking. Marc Istook is going to join me tonight for episode 365. Excited to have him back. He was one of the first big names we ever had on the F.A.N show, and he's been a friend of the show ever since. So here we are with today's headlines. Hit it! Headlines are brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises, although I kind of wish headlines or another segment were brought to you by Bang Energy. This stuff is delicious, and it's not going to kill you. At least we haven't discovered that it will yet. Monster Energy drink, Red Bull, Rockstar, that stuff will kill you. Like, if you're not careful. And I know guys that drink it religiously. Like, as much as some people will drink water and milk, they will drink Monster Energy. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I personally prefer Red Bull. I like Rockstar. Rockstar Punched is good. And then Monster, third place. But Bang finally made its way up to Washington here and available at most stores. And they've got some amazing flavors, but it's healthy. All my health nut friends drink Bang Energy. So I'm drinking it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. So Bang, if you're listening, you don't even have to pay me anything. If you just want to send me a case of assorted flavors, minus pina colada, not a fan, I'd be more than happy to stock it up. Let's do this. Let's make this happen. But until then, headlines are brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises, your home for all custom apparel, merchandise, knickknacks, and everything else. Literally bells and whistles that you can put your logo on, they can probably do. Underwear, socks, t-shirts, polos, pants, I'd imagine, dress shirts, button-ups, ties, handkerchiefs, scarves, hats, beanies, tablecloths, backdrops, trophies, and more, much more. Ethan at Dynamite Enterprises can get it done for you. So hit up Ethan, either Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com or visit dynamiteenterprises.com and say, hey, Fan Show talks a lot about you. Every time that we do the headlines, I hear, oh, we're going to hear about Dynamite again. What can you do for me as far as some sample merch or some apparel? They'll hook you up. Okay, that's what they do. They're very good at it. I love the merch that I've had, the t-shirts and hats. Sold out. Sold the F out. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Dynamite Enterprises. So, hit them up sooner than later. And Bang, again, I've got a segment for you out there. I'm sure I do. And you guys are delicious. I kind of wish Ethan made energy drinks. It would be so much better that way. But anyway, headlines are that we have the second half of the tournament starting. So first headline, of course, first and foremost, is that the Rams and the Vikings are playing tonight, Thursday Night Football. I think I like the Rams more in this matchup. The Vikings, they're going to be one of those 50-50 teams this year. They'll probably win more games than they lose. But to get beat at home by the Bills, it causes concern. It could be that one-off week, right, that every team has, but that is cause for concern. In BattleBots news, the right side of the bracket will take place tomorrow night. We will get it all the way down to we will know who the final four are going into the season finale next week. So, Bronco against Warhawk. Yeti versus Whiplash. Ice Wave versus Rotator. And Bite Force versus Huge. Then the winner of Bronco and Warhawk will take on the winner of Yeti and Whiplash, and we will see that fight also. The winner of Ice Wave and Rotator will take on the winner of Bite Force and Huge, and we will see that fight. Fights that we will not see will be between the winner of that one and the winner of the other, and then the winner of last week's two of those, the semifinals. So the semifinals and finals will happen next weekend. But man, that's a great lineup. We will miss one fight apparently because that's what happened last week. They did not air or televise one of the fights. I was a little upset at that. It's the tournament. Air them all. I mean, I've never been upset or mad at BattleBots because I know the founders and I know the guys. I've talked to all the producers and stuff at Discovery, and they've otherwise done a bang-up job. This is my one point of criticism that I have, is that for once you have your 16, because there were plenty of fights in the regular season that were not aired, and that's fine. That's understandable. But once you get down to it, to the nitty-gritty, every fan deserves to see all of these fights. Every fight in that tournament, we should be able to see. Not the highlights from it. We want to see those fights. Now, I don't know if the fights that we didn't see were bonus coverage on the Science Channel. I did not see that post anywhere, and if that's the case, I apologize. But still, it should be available no matter which channel you watch it on. As far as the NFL goes, it is Thursday night. We have Thursday Night Football on Fox, as we mentioned earlier. And I just want one channel to watch football on. That's it. Like, I'm tired of flipping from NBC to CBS to Fox. And I like that there are local sports bars, support local, I'm all about that, you guys know it, that will have the NFL Sunday ticket, that they can have a TV with every game on it for all the fans of the different teams in the areas. This is great. It's fantastic. But it shouldn't have to come to that. It's not cheap. That's not cheap for those bars to do. They have to pay in accordance with the law, which is that you have to, whatever your max capacity is, you pay for that viewership, that potential viewership. It's insanity. Wild Wings can do it because they're Wild Wings, but the mom and pop shops, it's a little bit more difficult. So props if they can. Other NFL news, we had C.J. Beathard, obviously, he's going to start for San Francisco 49ers this weekend against the Chargers. Eric Reed has signed with the Carolina Panthers. He will be in their secondary. He was one of these players that they thought was being blackballed from the league along with Kaepernick because they were the best of friends on the 49ers, and he was one of his biggest supporters for the movement and what he was doing. So apparently there's now an uproar about how this is like to turn a blind eye to the real issue by signing Eric Reed because he's not calling. I don't know. I don't choose to keep up with it. It's stupid. It really is. But today we have Fan versus Fan Show Pick'em round 3. I'm 0-2. I need to get one in the win column. Can I do it against Marc Istook? I don't know. I don't. It's going to be tough. Like I'm doubting myself. We've reached that part where I am doubting myself. We're going to see all of the new faces at quarterback this weekend. Baker Mayfield getting his first official start. He took over at halftime on Thursday. So Baker Mayfield will start against the Raiders. Josh, is it Allen or Rosen? I think it's Rosen. For the Cardinals, will get his first start this weekend. And then we've also got the other Josh. I believe that one is Allen, starting for the Buffalo Bills. And really, I think Lamar Jackson is the only rookie quarterback not starting this weekend because Sam Darnold's going to start for the Jets. Yeah, I think that about does it for the headlines. Yeah, here it is. Breaking news. No, come on, come back. I wasn't done with you yet. And there you are. So breaking news, Josh Rosen starting for the Cardinals. Rosen. And if you're screaming at your, listening device saying, how do you not know that that's the frickin' Cardinals and the Bills? Like, really? I have extensive knowledge about a lot of things, but keeping up which Josh is starting at quarterback for which less than mediocre team. Yeah. Alrighty. So that will do it. We will go ahead and go to a quick commercial break. And when I come back, Marc Istook of NFL Network. Don't go anywhere. We've got more of The Fan Show coming up right after this. You're listening to The Fan Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The Fan Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazzisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons, like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Joining me now, he was part of episode 300, and this is now 365, but he was one of the first big-name guests we had on the show, despite how modest he may be. He's from NFL Network and the Emmys red carpet, the most handsome face on the network, Marc Istook. How you doing, Marc?
say right now it's the face of the radio, but thanks for having me.
You have made leaps and bounds, and love the stuff on the NFL Network. And you are part of what is it? The fantasy spotlight that you do there now.
Sure. So we do NFL Fantasy Live every day of the week during the week, but I am going to be seen on that program on Thursdays and Fridays.
Gotcha. And how is your approach to football been with that? Because I know that you weren't one of the guys that did fantasy before. You did play and partake in fantasy, which can, some people will say, ruin your whole fandom of football. But now that you have to actually like talk about it and give your opinions and your thoughts and crunch the numbers, like, has it changed any further for you from that?
That's a great question. I also host our NFL Game Day Live coverage in the afternoons on Sunday, so I feel like I get to balance, the fantasy side of football with the, fantasy people say it's all real football, but the fantasy side with the real side, the side in the standings that counts and determines who makes the playoffs and all that stuff. I feel like I try to keep a decent balance. I'm one of those guys who, I'm a diehard Cowboys fan, so I'm going to root for the Cowboys all the time, and I would have a hard time playing somebody against Dallas and rooting for them. I lean in that direction. But the fantasy analysis side of it is fun, and I'm just trying to keep up with our fantasy experts because those guys are unbelievable encyclopedias of information when it comes to fantasy football.
Yeah, I got to say, I love that you said that because I, too, am a man that, I try not to draft anyone from within my team's division, the NFC West. No Seahawks. The only Ram I've ever had is Eastern Washington's own Cooper Kupp, obviously, because he's a local boy. And then,
Certainly.
Of course, the Cardinals, sometimes it's tough there. But, they always say, play fantasy football with your head, not your heart. But I will tell you, more often than not, because I am that guy that will bench a starter if they're playing my team, that I have ended up winning that game. Case in point, I put Aaron Coscarelli at 0-3 in the Fan Shows League because I benched Kareem Hunt, who played my Niners, and that was a huge risk, but I pulled it off thanks to Drew Brees.
Well, sometimes those victories are the sweetest.
That they are, right? I mean, it's something where you're like proud, even more proud of yourself in the end. And I'm sorry about your Cowboys' early struggles. I personally cast my vote for you to take over as head coach. But, I mean, between Dez and Dan Bailey and everything going on, like, is there one singular problem with your Cowboys, or is this just going to be that year that it takes to, I guess, shake things up a bit in that organization?
I think on the field there are a number of problems. I think you could say that some of those problems are on the sidelines as well. But if you had to point to one problem, if you had to pick just one, I think the buck stops in the front office. And I'll just leave it at that.
Fair enough. All right. Because I remember, obviously living in Washington, you hear a lot about the Seahawks, and it seemed like, winning will cure all. As long as you keep winning, any problems that you had aren't really problems anymore for that week. A lot of people feel like, Mike Tomlin is losing the locker room in Pittsburgh. Well, things got a little rocky there Monday night. They got the win. I feel like they bought themselves another week before, if they lose, that those issues resurface. Seattle had to go and miss the playoffs last year before they did a whole shakeup. Is that something that you see on a professional standpoint that is true, that, you have to almost have one of your worst seasons in order for things to get better?
I don't know. I think that depends upon the franchise. You have some franchises like Pittsburgh, you mentioned the Steelers, where the Rooney family is all about consistency. They are not ones to overreact. They are ones that believe, look, this is a transfer method. We're going to do it this way. We're going to weather the storm. And you've got places where you've got reactionary ownership, and they are going to, kind of ride the wave, and whichever way the wind blows, they're going to go that way. So I think it depends upon the franchise. There's not any one
one-size-fits-all approach to, how you manage adversity, or whether you have to hit rock bottom before you climb up. You see some franchises that make savvy moves, and the balls bounce their way a few times, and things work out. They make it to the postseason, whatever. Their draft picks work out. People stay healthy. There are so many variables when it comes to putting together a winning football team that I think most of it's situational.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I really do think that it depends on the front office and the franchise. I think the Cowboys are a model of how much they believe in pretty much sticking to your guns. I mean, a lot of people thought that Romo should have been benched in favor of other quarterbacks, but Jerry Jones is not the kind of guy that you get the impression from that he's ready to play quarterback carousel with. He wants that same face, that same name out there. He doesn't want to do this whole swap in, swap out thing. He wants the right team, the right personnel out there growing together, which for as much as he does wrong in some people's eyes, I do believe he does that right, which is, giving his staff, his players, his coaches enough of a chance to get it right and to get their vision and their game plan implemented out on the field.
Yeah, I think the issues in Dallas, there have been some personnel mistakes and miscalculations that have been made. I think there have been some strategic game planning and scheme mistakes that they've made, and I don't know that there is one easy way to get it back on track. I'm not a pessimistic Cowboys fan either. I think I've reached the point of realistic enlightenment where the great, all the dominoes started falling their way this season. They were able to make it to the playoffs. I don't see how this happens, given what we know about Jason Garrett, given the players that are on the field, and given the way the team has been handled lately.
Well, I did mention to you that I wanted to talk about the future of the NFL, and I phrased it like that because I'm sure that with you guys there at the network, that everything going on in Green Bay with Clay Matthews and officiating has been such a hot topic, and maybe you guys are just, over it by now because it's only going into week 4 and there's plenty of other storylines out there. So I wanted to phrase it, your thoughts on the future of the NFL, because I remember on NFL.com years ago, there was the special that was done, NFL 2020. What can we expect to see from the league in the year 2020? And we're only 2 away from that. And I remember there were things like they thought every helmet was going to have a visor with a digital, like an LED kind of scroll that came across with the play calls, and that we were going to have chips implanted in the football so that we could do away with the chains. I mean, it's 2018 and we still have the chain gang out there measuring for first downs when we have all this other unlimited technology for the game of football. But with the Alliance of American Football and the XFL coming out in 2020, and with all the issues that we've seen with not knowing what a catch is and how to sack the quarterback, like your thoughts as a fan of football and an analyst of where you see this, in the next 5 years, 2020, whatever point in time you want to put, but where do you see this headed?
Oh, gosh. I think a lot of the technological innovations have been awesome. You've got next-gen stats, you've got the instant replay and all that kind of stuff. But if you think about it, it hasn't changed the gameplay. You still, again, you've got the change of the field. You've got Highline cam. You've got the first down marker. You've got all these different kind of fun aspects, the microphones and the guys wearing the pads. You've got the tracking, all that kind of stuff. But it hasn't changed the play on the field. And I wonder if there's some kind of cool balance to that we still measure down in distance by where the referee feels he saw the football when the guy's knee went down and when the tackle was made. I think personally, as much as I enjoy instant replay and the ability to make the calls that you need to make, I love the fact that there's a human element to the game, that there are judgment calls, that it's not just controlled by computers that measure where the nose of the football was for every single down and distance marking. I don't know that I see that changing anytime in the near future. Might be changing in some of the alternative football leagues that are starting to make their way back in front of the public, the XFL and some of these other alternative leagues that are popping up. I almost think it have to happen there first to be popular and for the NFL to adopt it, because it involves such a fundamental paradigm shift in terms of how the game is played on the field, as opposed to how we consume it as fans and it's officiated on television.
So you think happy balance, where there's still that human element, which makes the sport, I guess I would say it makes it feel real, right? And not staged, not scripted. That's kind of what referees and that human element.
Game played by people. I want to see that human element, at least on some level, all around.
I'm sorry, Mark, you cut out there for a second.
I just said as younger fans grow up and the game grows up, maybe those opinions will change, but I think there are a lot of people who appreciate a balance between, hey, let's use technology when we can use it, but let's not have it supplant that there are people on the field, or else we could just all just go watch Madden replays.
That's very true. So I use the chain gang as an example. Is there an aspect of the game that you thought for sure by now would have been left strictly to cutting-edge technology that hasn't been? And if so, what aspect of the game is that?
I thought crossing the goal line. To me, crossing the goal line, especially now that we've got some of the technology to mark the football, I thought we'd have some way to measure that. It still may be that you can't get precise enough to tell if the nose of the ball has broken the plane. I don't know enough about what technology is available there. I think if you'd asked me 5 or 10 years ago, I would have thought maybe we'd be there with something like that. I know we're getting close when it comes to the next stats capabilities. So I might have thought, yeah, we could have gotten there, but not there yet, obviously.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'd like to personally be able to actually celebrate a touchdown when it happens and not have to worry about the replay, but hopefully we'll get to that in the next couple years. Before we get to the moment of the evening, which is Fan versus Fan Show Pick'em, I had a pretty bad loss in fantasy aside from beating Aaron Coscarelli in fantasy football. I also was on the receiving end of a bad beat, and I wanted to know, now that you talk about fantasy football, you analyze it, you play it, what was your worst fantasy beat that you can recall?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I think by the time the season ends, I kind of have forgotten, I've forgotten the bad losses. I know I've had some where, Monday night somebody comes in and I lose by half a point, or a guy misses a first down or a field goal or whatever. I certainly have had that happen a number of times. I can tell you a great win that I had this past week that I was just especially happy with because early on in the season I got pretty blown out this one, but week 2 I was able to get a win by a substantial margin. But week 3, this past week that just passed, I had what I thought was a healthy lead, but I was going up against Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown on Monday night.
Ooh.
And was very worried about them coming into this game, what I expected to be maybe the highest scoring fantasy game of the week against the Bucs. And the first half, certainly the scoreboard was lit up on you had Big Ben and AB connecting at a rate that would have put the team I was going up against, in the win column. And luckily the Bucs helped me out with a 11-minute drive in the second half to get the ball out of Roethlisberger's hands, and I was able to eke out the win by a few points. But those are always the nail-biters. When you don't have anybody going on Monday night, your opponent does. I think that's one of the Monday night or Sunday night games where you could lose the game and you don't have anybody to counter. Those are the hardest to watch.
Yeah, and for me, I actually can recall a bad beat that I had last season. The Patriots, in one of their few losses that they had in the regular season, they were down, I think, by it was some number where a field goal really does you no good. Like, I want to say they were down by like 11 points, and they were driving, and the other guy I was playing had their kicker. And I'm just like, okay, so they're going to go for it on fourth because a field goal does them no good. I'm fine. I had like I think a 3-point lead. And then all of a sudden they elect to kick a field goal, and he got the 3 points. And I was just screaming at my TV because it didn't make any sense at all. And I was going crazy throwing stuff. So that was one of my worst beats last year. But I'm glad that you got to experience the thrill of victory in an otherwise uncertain setting that is Monday Night Football with Big Ben and Mr. Brown.
I'll take however I can get it. I'll take the W's. They're a little sweeter when it's just by a point, though.
Oh, yeah, very true. So we have Fan versus Fan Show Pick'em. I'm 0-2. Cynthia Freeland took me down last week. That was painful. She only got one wrong. I mean, she really is one of the best in the business. So we're gonna do this. We'll see if I can beat another expert and get into the win column finally, and we'll get right to it. The first game that I've got on the docket is a battle of 2-1 teams. Little surprising here from both. We'll see who starts for one, but the future is for another young quarterback named Trubisky as the Buccaneers go to Chicago to take on the Bears. Who do you like in this?
Oh, man. I love what we've seen so far this season. I think it's been a blast watching him play. I for one, am rooting for him to continue the Fitz magic this the rest of the season. He lost a little bit of it this past week, but this matchup against the Bears is very, very difficult. You've got a Bears defense that has been crazy opportunistic. Khalil Mack has been the force that, boy, they wish they had back in Oakland. So I think in this game, the fact that it's in Chicago, I am leaning toward the Bears on this one. That Bucs defense has not been impressive at all, and I feel like it's a battle of a potentially explosive Bucs offense against a very good Bears defense, and a not terrible Bears offense against a leaky Bucs defense. So I'm going to go with the Bears on this one.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to agree with you on that one because it's one of those games where here you have Monday night, all anybody can talk about is what's going to happen when Jameis Winston has served his suspension and can come back. And all the while they're talking about Fitzpatrick is throwing 3 interceptions. Now, he came back and threw 3 touchdowns and led a great comeback, but they still got the L. It's not time for this team to panic yet, but I think that a loss here in Chicago would be all that they need for Fitzmagic to close up another chapter with another team and for Winston to come back on that white horse to save the day. So I'm going to pick Chicago. It just seems like that's the kind of situation we've reached with another Fitzpatrick-led team. The next one, I don't even know if I got to ask, but we're going to take the 1-2 Detroit Lions going into Dallas, or Arlington, I guess I should say, to take on your Cowboys. Also 1-2.
Give me the Lions. Give me the Lions.
Give you the Lions?
Yeah.
Oh, Mark.
Well, one, Dallas is not special at home, so there's no home field advantage to speak of. And two, this is a team that has to figure out who they are on offense. So they're going to run Ezekiel Elliott into the ground, and if you're an opposing defense, why would you do anything other than stack the box? I feel like right now this offense is struggling. You saw a Lions offense that has some playmakers. Michael Galladay is a lot of fun to watch. Matthew Stafford has had Dallas's number on some occasions in the past. Give me the Lions.
All right, I'm going to take the Lions too. I was all prepared for you to take Dallas, but you've sold me on picking against your team. I mean, who would have thought that needed to happen?
I hate it, but maybe some reverse psychology. But
all right, this next one is one that has got a lot of people's attention, but some feel that they already know the outcome, and that is when undefeated, one of only 3 teams left, Miami Dolphins, make that trip up to Foxborough to take on a 1-2 Patriots. Am I reading that right? Yes, I am. What do you think about this one?
The Dolphins, this is a game that I feel like it would be trendy to go with Miami. They have, again, shocked a lot of people making it 3-0 so far this year, and something is not right with this New England team. This is not the same Patriots we've been seeing. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't become that. Maybe in week 4, maybe in week 5, whatever. But no rhythm, inability to get the key stops they need on defense. Something just quite isn't right. That said, look, this is a divisional game. Obviously, the stakes are high for the Patriots trying to get off the schneid. I'm going to go with New England at home in the division. I think that if they're going to get it right, this is the week it happens. If it doesn't get right this week, then I think we can really start talking about when does it get right for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is the game that typically the Patriots set them up to win. If for whatever reason they're like the underdog, which I doubt being at home against the division rival they are. But just all the talk recently, the Patriots having more losses than wins at this point in the season. But I said that this is everybody that says New England can do this every regular season and still make the Super Bowl. Very true, but there is something that feels different about this New England team. So I will actually take Miami. I think it may not be Miami's year for this division, but I do not think that it's going to be something that the Patriots run away with and they have an uphill battle. So give me Miami. You are going to take New England. And the next one is another division rivalry, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, a couple of teams that really need to get this win because they are not in the spots that you would think these teams would be in that division right now, and it's kind of anyone's ball game.
This one almost feels like a coin flip for me. I think you can come up with a scenario where either team wins this game. This Steelers team, again, doesn't feel like the same Steelers team of old. The Ravens, I just historically don't believe in Joe Flacco, although I think he's shown some aspects of some flashes of being elite this year. That new receiving core, watching him try to get on the same page with him. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh just because they're at home. And I think that, again, kind of like New England, if they're going to start finding some magic, this would be a great game for them to do it.
Yeah, they still have all that off-field controversy going on with the whole Le'Veon Bell thing, and that has not helped them be in the positive spotlight so far this season. Though they got lucky against the Bucs team. Normally, Steelers with a lead like that, it's pretty much all but said and done once the clock hits zero. But they let them get back within 3, and even then, you were kind of at the edge of your seat wondering what was going to happen. So I'm going to go with Baltimore on this one because I think they see an opportunity here to really get a stranglehold on the division with so many variables right now, especially Cleveland actually in the win column. So you like Pittsburgh, I will take Baltimore. And speaking of Cleveland, that brings us to the 5th and final game. This one might not be the hottest pick for people, but there's so much to it. Cleveland, they have ended their drought. They've gone the longest in however many years without a loss because they played Thursday and they will now play again Sunday. Baker Mayfield in at quarterback against an 0-3 Raiders team, which that's not surprising. What is that they have a $100 million coach by the name of John Gruden that has been leading this team to 0-3. So I got to get your thoughts on this one.
Give me Cleveland in this one.
Oh,
Look,
wow.
I'm not on the Baker bandwagon, but I think his team is, and that might be enough to get them this win. He didn't play enough to give Oakland a lot of tape on how to affect their game plan in this game. So I feel like I do feel like that's going to happen at some point this year if he continues to start. Teams will get tape. They will figure out how to scheme him. He's going to have to evolve as a quarterback. Every rookie quarterback does. So I think that's going to happen at some point in time. But that Cleveland defense is legit. There are a lot of ways they can attack you defensively. And given that this Raiders offense has just not been where I think John Gruden, well, no, there's no question they aren't where John Gruden wants them to be. But they have not been able to find consistency, fire on all cylinders so far this season. Give the edge to the Cleveland defense, and there is just enough momentum potentially and enthusiasm on offense for the Browns to score some points on a Oakland defense that ranks 20th in the league. I think Cleveland takes this one.
Well, I completely agree with you on the aspect of giving the edge to the Cleveland defense. A rookie quarterback or not, Baker Mayfield, I think he is a leader in that locker room. He's one of my favorite young quarterbacks out there just because he doesn't listen to the haters and the critics. But to think that Gruden is going to just not have his boys play a full 4 quarters, which that fourth one has been missing lately, at home against Cleveland. I mean, it's crazy to think that you have to really debate who you're going to pick in a game like this, but I've got to give Gruden a chance here to get things back on the right track. He's been under a lot of fire for the Khalil Mack trade, but I think at home You're playing Cleveland. Like, you don't want that to get added to the list of stuff that people are already talking about you. So I'm going to go with Oakland and get their first win against Cleveland, which it's crazy to think that that's, one of those picks that you're like, well, it could or it might not. But that's who I'm going to take in this one.
All right, so you got Oakland in this game. You took Baltimore in the Pittsburgh game, and you took Miami in the New England game. Those are the three we differ on?
Yes.
All righty, got them circled.
Yep, and those are the three that I think are the most 50-50, so it's going to be a real fun weekend. Tonight we've got, obviously, Minnesota against L.A. That should be one of the better Thursday night matchups, even though Minnesota against Buffalo. I don't know who those guys were in the Buffalo uniforms, but that was something.
Yeah, I think early on in the game, you had a sense like this is not Minnesota's day. They just, once they fell behind and had to throw the ball as much as, I think they ran it 6 times in the game. Not a recipe for success, not a recipe for them to get a win at home. But they came out and got punched in the mouth. Although I think there's a decent chance they could rebound and take this game against Los Angeles tonight. I'm just going out on a limb there.
Alrighty, well, we have made our picks, and Mark, thank you as always for taking some time to be here on the Fan Show, talk about the NFL, its future, and I'm looking forward to the next dream job whenever that drops. Please let me know. I'm always a good listen.
Appreciate it.
But enjoy the network and have fun. Not too much fun, though, if that's even possible there in the NFL network. But you guys, you call it work. I mean, really. Is it?
No, it's not digging ditches.
It's not digging ditches. All right. Well, Mark, you have a great rest of your night. Enjoy tonight's game, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Appreciate you having me, and enjoy Week 4, everybody.
All right. You too. And once again, NFL Network's Marc Istook, the next man up, or woman. I mean, I don't mean that you get it. Sometimes I feel like I have to watch what I say because the wrong person could be listening and I'm going to get just like a string of angry DMs or messages. But then I realize, like, honestly, those people that would get triggered or upset at phrasing like that probably aren't listening to the show to begin with. I don't even know who's listening to the show at all, really. I just keep doing it because I like it. It's fun, and I get guests like Cynthia Freeland, Marc Istook, Mick Foley, Charlotte Flair, Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan, just to name a few. And I get to go to events like BattleBots and Arena Football Championships and college football and Comic-Cons, just to name a few. And that's something that makes me chuckle as well. Is look, I get down on myself for certain things, not knowing like how many people listen or who listens, and I'm sure that there's enough of you that do. I don't get hate mail yet, and I'm sure that I will sooner rather than later. But until then, I'm going to just assume that I'm doing things right here and that you guys enjoy what you hear, and I appreciate you that do. But your feedback is always welcome. Try to keep it constructive if you can, but that's sometimes a tall order. But, I've been accused of several things since this whole thing has started. I've been accused of stealing segments from people, and let me just say that, one, that's not true. Two, the individual that accused me of this, their segments aren't worth stealing. And this individual actually texted me because we used to be, kind of friends before they became an arrogant prick, and asked if they could use some of my sound bites and things from my show on theirs. And their first guests, I think the first 4, were all people that I had already on my show that I introduced them to. Which, there's nothing against that, but if you're going to accuse somebody of stealing something from you, you might as well not look like the person that's actually doing the stealing. So, people have said I'm unoriginal, that I have no creativity, that there's people that will whine that, they get mad when I do things and that they should be the ones doing it. Okay, then, stop me? I don't know what to say to that, really, because every opportunity that I see and get, I take advantage of. I'm out there adding event after event, game after game of credentials to my list. And the photos that you see of me with my media badge that say Richard Tiemann in the Fan Show, or guest, or whatever, or media, and it's for a music festival, or an arena football game, or for a college football game, or for a wrestling event, or for whatever event, Comic-Con, BattleBots, whatever, those pictures that you see, they're a reminder that I'm out there putting in the work to get where I want to go. And that's also why I'm a student at Full Sail University in their sportscasting program. You're not going to see those pictures from my haters or from my would-be competition because they're not out there doing it. That's the difference between them and me. I go out there and I do it. I go out there and I get it done because this is what is most important to me right now as far as my career. They sit back, they have one good podcast episode, and they feel like they should be a credentialed member of the NFL media, getting an all-expense paid trip to the Pro Bowl or the Super Bowl or a playoff game. Why? Why do you think that? What have you done that makes you think that you deserve to be in that press box or amongst those others that have worked so hard to get there? So I put in the work, and I keep my nose down, and I grind. And that's not something that I can say for the people that accuse me of stuff. So, it is what it is. As cliche as that sounds, it really is what it is. But I have a stack of credentials that weren't given to me because I knew somebody or because I have a friend that has a friend that knows a guy. I applied, I've gotten rejected, but these are the ones that I've applied for and gotten approved for, and they've wanted me back and have had me back. And I've met players and coaches, actors, celebrities, comedians, athletes, movie stars, and it's been a blast. But haters are going to hate, and that's okay. Come at me with the best you've got. I dare you. Or as the kids say today, at me. So if you think that you can do what I do and you've been upset, prove it. So that's my little end show rant here because there's a lot of stuff that you see a lot of criticism about, a lot of people ranting and raving. But, people have accused me of things, and that's okay. It really is because it doesn't faze me at all. I'm still here doing my thing, and the best part about those haters is that they gave up after a little bit, or they're trying really hard and they're not doing what I do because I do it better. So that's going to do it for our week here on the Fan Show. And I thank all of you guys for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, Mark, for talking the future of football, fantasy football, what he's doing. Catch him on NFL Network. He's a great guy, handsome individual. And for doing Fan versus Fan Show Pick'em. We've got our games. We both like Chicago over Tampa Bay. We both like Detroit over Dallas. God, that was a shocker. And then I am taking Miami. He's taking New England. I'm taking Baltimore, and he's taking Pittsburgh. So I'm taking 2 road teams to his 2 home teams. And then he likes Cleveland over Oakland, and I'm looking for Gruden to get his first one of the season. Man, if he doesn't beat the Browns and he's 0-4, that's a world of hurt. Is that worth $100 million? I don't know. But BattleBots tomorrow night. Don't forget, Discovery Channel, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. We will be back with a whole new slew of awesome content and brand new episodes next week. Same time, same place. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Spreaker.com or thefanshow.com if you can listen live. Otherwise, subscribe. iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. Don't forget to check out Undisputed Belts for all your belt making needs and Indy's Barbershop if you're in the area for a quality haircut and hot towel shave. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners! And remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks!
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.